शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधे वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण जन्मसंसारबन्धनात् विमुच्यते। नमस्तस्मै विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे। लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। वार्ताय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। Om Namo Venkatesaya. My pranams everybody. So we'll just recapitulate what we learned in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita in general, what do they contain? The first, this first 6 chapters contains about performance of the desireless karma, the actions, along with the knowledge of a little bit of knowledge about the performance of these various actions. Then following that is the practice of this dhyana yoga for the sake of realization of the self. So that is the broad thing that is contained in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Now coming to the first chapter of course is Arjuna's Vishada Yoga, where Arjuna initially, although he was so keen to fight this battle out on seeing the when he asked Krishna to take this, this battle with Senyor Ubayor Madhya Ratam Sthape Mechita, that means take my chariot in between the two warring factions. And Krishna did that. And then on seeing the people on both sides, he was completely taken by compassion towards, misplaced compassion towards his kith and kin. And therefore he said that, I cannot fight this battle because I'll be killing my kith and kin, my guru, as well as the great grandsire Bhishma Pitamahar, and therefore I don't want to fight this battle. I'm confused what my duty is. So Arjuna, the Krishna, I've surrendered to you. Prapannoham Sishyoham. That means I've become your disciple and I'm surrendered to you. So tell me what is good for me. Thereafter Krishna takes over from chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya is knowledge. So he's talking about 3 things in chapter 2, where first he's talking about the Brahma Vidya, that is Atma Vidya, where he's talking about the imperishability of the Jivatma. So he's saying that Arjuna, don't think that you are killing your grandfather, the grandsire, or your gurus or kith and kin, because nobody, all the people are in the Jivatma is something which cannot be killed at all. Jivatma is imperishable. It's only the body which undergoes all these changes, and anyway body has to one day or other perish, and therefore as long as you are performing your duty and not for the sake of gaining victory over this battle, you should fight this battle out because that's your duty. That's what he is saying. That is the Brahma Vidya first. Then he talks a little bit about this Karma Yoga. On the second chapter itself, he's saying, Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma pala heturbo mate sangos karma. That means you control over only on your actions, not on the results. So don't aspire for the results and then fight this battle. So just do your duty as a Kshatriya Dharma. So that is what he's talking a little bit of Karma Yoga. And finally concluding with the Sthita Prajna. There is a person who has already established his intellect in this Jivatma Swarupam. So what will be the nature of him? He will be completely free from all the desires and all those things. Then, of course, then the famous sloka of this, the ladder of descent. Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upadayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodha Vijayate. How does a person fall off? When he starts looking and thinking about the various objects, the desire arises in him. From the desire arises the krodha. If the desire is not fulfilled, he becomes angry. From anger comes all this, sammoha, smriti pumsa, buddhinas. That means ultimately he perishes. So that is what he is saying. So you should avoid from desires. That's what he is talking. Then coming to the third chapter was more about Karma Yoga only, basically. Then the chapter itself is called as Karma Yoga. So the need for performance of the actions without attachment to the fruits of the action. That was the basic point that Krishna was communicating in chapter 3. And also saying that you should perform your duties as a this offering to the Bhagavan. That is a pleasure for the Bhagavan and not for your own personal gains or anything like that, as well as for the general welfare of the entire society as such. So that is the purpose for which you have to act in this world. And also he talked about even the people who have realized, like Janaka and others, even though they have nothing to gain by performing the actions, they continued the actions for the sake of setting up good examples to the people in the posterity. So that is what he was talking about. Then finally he concluded by saying that these are the actions arise out of the various 3 gunas. So that means you be beyond the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, are things which are creating these actions, and Jivatma is above the three gunas, and therefore we remain in the state beyond the gunas. That's what I advise Arjuna on chapter 3. On chapter 4, which was Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, where he talked about the knowledge aspect of this karma. Each action has got a knowledge aspect of that, and therefore he talked about the karma by itself is inert. Because we are the human beings, we have been given that intellect, so you should know the knowledge which is enabling us to create this action, and therefore that is what he talked about in this, and then he talked about the various types of this yajnas. So dravya yajna, then jnana yajna, everything. Then finally he concluded by saying that jnana yajna is the greatest compared to this, this all these various dravya yajnas. That's what he concluded in chapter 4. Then he moved on to chapter 5, which was karma sannyasa yoga. So that means he is talking about the various modes of the performance of the action, at the same time, more or less repeating what he said in chapter 3, without any attachment to the fruits of the actions. And then finally, then a person who then slowly, when a person starts performing along with the knowledge of these actions which is performing, he will come to a stage of this equanimity of vision. There he talked about this that is a person vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavi hastini. So panditaha sunicheva sopakeche panditaha samadarshinaha. So you will get the equanimity of the vision, seeing the Bhagavan everywhere, and therefore you'll be able to see all the people as the same person. That is, even though their adjuncts or the physical appearances and their mental modes could be different, he sees only the Atma as well as Jivatma as well as the Paramatma, Jivatma, which is of the Jnana Swarupa, which is almost common in all the people. And therefore he is able to see that, and therefore he has the equanimity of that vision. That's what he spoke about in chapter 5. Then coming to the chapter 6, which is what we covered in the last few days, he starts by saying, the sannyasa, because Arjuna was thinking, they were getting confused with what is this karma yoga and then the sannyasa yoga. Bhagavan said both are the same. So he starts with the saying, anasita karma palam karyam karma karoti hai sa sannyasi cha yogi cha nanadagni nachakri. That means the sannyasi and karma yogi are both the same. Or what is required is anasita karma palam. That's what the person, whatever actions that a person does without any leaning on the fruits of the action. Ashrita karma palam. That means without leaning on the fruits of the action, if a person performs an action, he is a karma yogi, and the sannyasi is also supposed to perform in the same manner. So, and therefore, both sannyasi and then this karma yogi, both are the same. That's what Bhagavan, again in the second sloka, is reiterating the same point. Yam sannyasam iti prahu yogam tad viddipan. That means a person, what you think as sannyasa is the same as karma yoga also. So that means the person who is performing without any sankalpa, that means without any objective of getting the fruits of the action in mind, that person is the yogi, and therefore unless a person performs that like in that manner, he is not a yogi at all. Then he says, for the sake of initially to start with, a person has to perform these actions. So arurorocho munir yogam karma karanam uchyate yogarudas tatasave shamak karanam uchyate. That means as long as a person initially will have to perform this action and get into this mode of yoga, gave the example of this, this bicycles. When you start learning the bicycles, first you'll have to you put one foot on the pedal and the other feet you keep on the ground, keep slowly going on that. Then finally, once you reach the balance, you put the other leg also into the bicycle and start riding it. So the yoga, initially you'll have to perform the actions, and then slowly the actions themselves follow from you. Although you'll keep performing that. So that's what Bhagavan is talking about in terms of this dhyana yoga. Then he talks about this most important thing is the mind. So uddaret atmanat atmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhu atmaiva ripra. That means a person who is able to control the mind becomes his greatest friend. A person or his relative. A person who is not able to control the mind itself becomes the greatest enemy, because it will take him onto a wrong path and therefore he will ultimately perish. So that's what he's talking about, the greatness of controlling this, this mind. Then he started giving the details of how should one person perform this dhyana yoga, in the meticulous the details of. So you should first go to a secluded place, that is where there is no disturbance from outside environment. Rahasi sthita. Then ekaki, that means he must be alone. He should not go along with a group of people for performing this meditation. So he has to be alone. So this is what he said. Then he said to practice the yoga, one has to be in a pure place. Sucho deshe. That means the place has to be absolutely pure. So that means so that there is no disturbance in terms of the smell and other things. Then the mind gets gets carried away through this, all these disturbances. So a very pure place. Then pratishtapya stiram atma. That means he should the seat has to be very firmly placed. Otherwise, if the seat itself is not very stable, then it will keep moving around, and that will cause disturbances. That the seat has to be firm, and then it should be neither too high nor too low. And then on that first he has to spread these kusagas. On the kusag, after that he place that this deer skin. On top of that, a pure cloth on that. That's what you will have to sit. And then keeping the mind single pointed, then you should start thinking about this sitting in that place. In Jat Yogam, for the purpose of purifying this mind, we have to start practicing this meditation. Then again, the sitting position has to be it should be the back has to be erect. That is the base. Then the neck as well as this head must be in a straight line. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan achalam stira. That means you should not keep moving. The body should not keep moving around. Body must be still. That's what he's saying. Because once the body becomes still, the mind also becomes good. That is, it is like controlling the effect. Through that you can control the cause also. So body is the effect and the mind is the cause. So when the mind is agitated, then the body will keep moving here and there. You find people are disturbed. They will keep roaming around, walking this way, that way, walking this way, that way. So that means there's the body movement indicates that there are some problem. The mind is not quiet. So similarly, when you quieten the body, the reverse process you can quieten the mind also. That's why Bhagavan is saying. So you should the body should remain in a still position without any movements, and then that will be able to get this ekagra chitta. That's what he's saying. Samprecha nasika gramcham disachana avalokam. That is, he should as if while closing the eyes, I should as if looking at the nasikagra. That means the tip of the nose is that's a point for concentration for him. That's what he said. Then prashantatma. That means the mind becomes quiet. Vigata bihi, without any fear or anything like that. Brahmacharya vrate. Brahmacharya vrate is giving only the sense organs what is required for their performance, and not getting into too much wandering into this outside world. So that is brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam vrate stitah. Manasamyame matchitto asita. Most important thing, you should give the mind, think about me. The reason why the Bhagavan is saying think about me is when you talk about Bhagavan, is as they say, that is when the mind thinks of something, the mind becomes that. So once you start thinking about Bhagavan, then you get the qualities of the Bhagavan into yourself also. So matchitaha, think about me. Matparayana, yadbhavo tad bhavati. That's what the Upanishads also says. That means as you think, so you become. So Bhagavan says matchitaha. So think about me. Asita matparaha. That means having me as the goal, then ultimate goal, and therefore you start thinking about me and start meditating on it. So once a yogi is able to do that and controlling the mind, shantim nirvanam paramam mastam stam. That means he is able to get the quietude of that mind, and through the quietude of the mind, he is able to ultimately reach my abode. That's what Bhagavan said. Then other what you call preconditions Bhagavan says is the person who is performing the meditation should neither eat too much nor should be completely fasting. So you need a balancing. That means that is that is what is required for the sustaining this body. You have got to consume that food. Otherwise, body will become weak. In the weak body, you cannot concentrate at all. So that's why Bhagavan says you should at the same time you should not be a glutton. You should keep on consuming more. Then the body becomes this lazy. So tamasic tendencies will come in, and therefore you won't be able to concentrate. For concentration, you need the sattvic tendencies. So one should neither eat apart from the food. Bhagavan is also talking about through the food all the various sense organs also. So if you keep indulging in all these various the pleasures of the sense organs, you won't be able to concentrate. So you should have mita. That means you should modified. What do you call the medium? Medium is what is Bhagavan says. Similarly, sleep also. Bhagavan says a person who is sleeping for a long period of time, he won't be able. He is not fit for meditation. Nor a person who doesn't sleep at all. So body also needs some rest, and therefore you should be a reasonable amount of sleep is required for a person to get into this path of meditation. Yuktahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapno bhavatsya, yoga bhavati dukkha. That means that's what the same. He has repeated the same thing, and then he beautifully has defined that is the yoga bhavati dukkha. That yoga becomes dukkha for the sake of destroying all our sorrows. So that means when the mind gets concentrated and then starts enjoying, gets into this, this atmic consciousness and paramatma, then it starts enjoying the bliss. In fact, on the guided meditation, all of you felt that you enjoyed that kind of a bliss. So that's what Bhagavan is saying. So dukkha, it will completely remove you from the sorrows. So then he is said to be the person who is able to practice it. He is said to be the person who is established in that yoga. Again, Bhagavan gives an example saying that when the lamp is flickering because of the wind. Wind is in the situation where there is wind. If there is no wind, the lamp will the flickering will not be there. Similarly, the mind is being is flickering because of the various desires. One is able to remove those desires. The mind will also start concentrating in a single pointed manner. That's what Bhagavan talks about. I think we'll continue the discussion tomorrow and complete the chapter 6, and maybe day after tomorrow we'll take up the chapter 7. Vasudevam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Krishna 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 Krishna.